So now I'm recording, but don't worry. Nothing you say will be held against you. So actually, Mrs. Guler over here shared a very interesting article from a rabbi. She didn't know who it was, and she wanted to tell me about it. It happened to be I wrote the article. We just found out. But the question is a question which I hear at least 3, 4, 5 times a year from people as they're starting to get connected to Torah, which is the question of how are there religious people who are not good? You have plenty of religious people who are good. You have plenty of non-religious people who are good. But the question of how could a person who's not religious not be good is not really a question anyone asks, because it's not necessarily a person that we would expect to be good. Not that being secular means we don't expect you to be good, but you're not involved in any type of pursuit that would let me know that that's of interest to you. It might be, it might not be. If a person is secular and good, we would probably think, you know what, being good is an important pursuit for that secular person. Maybe they're a secular humanist. Maybe they're spiritual, not necessarily religious. Maybe they have just a very good, strong moral compass or value system. But a person who's religious and not good, that's like Jews for Jesus. It's like you can't have the two together. I would say fried Oreos, except for they have that in Texas. But there's certain things you don't expect to go there. How do you have a religious person who's not good? That means to say a person who's quote-unquote dedicating their lives to living righteously, and yet they're not living righteously. How do we put the two things together?
Maybe it's very hard, Rabbi. I cannot all the time be kind to people and not cheat people.
Right. So very good. So one answer that Gonen is saying is the fact that just because you know what's right doesn't necessarily mean that you're able to always live according to those precepts.
I know that it's very good to eat healthy food, but look at me.
Right.
Knowing the path I'm walking in those.
Right. It happened to be there was a professor in some university who was actually a professor of ethics who got in trouble for certain scandalous things, which we won't mention in a shul. And one of his students approached this professor and he said, "I don't get it. You teach ethics." And he said, "Does that mean a person who teaches geometry is a triangle?" Now, that sounds silly. It sounds, of course, silly and also funny at the same time. But for many religious people, there is that element. I teach it, meaning I live it, doesn't mean necessarily I have integrated it. For a lot of religious people, they have grown up that way. So to a secular person in the secular culture that they're used to, the person who's observant from birth, that is the culture that they're used to. So they are not actually religious, they are just culturally religious. It's a very hard thing for us to wrap our minds around, because we see a person with a beard and payas doing something wrong, and we're like, we don't get it, you haven't got a beard and payas. If it's a woman with a beard and payas, it's even more surprising. But if we see somebody with beard and payas, we think, but you're religious. The answer is, oftentimes, they're not religious, they are culturally religious. Just as a Jew, by the way, could be a bagels and lox Jew, a religious Jew could be a tefillin and Shabbos Jew. That's what they do. That's not who they are. They were brought up with it. So I've shared that example, many times, and people are oftentimes very surprised. Wow, I never thought about the fact that a religious Jew could actually be just a culturally religious Jew, because that's what they know, and that's what their family does, and that's what their friends do. So they keep Shabbos and they put on